It's a savage world, strange as a weird war. It's a savage world, parsecs to explore. It's a savage world, in the land of the dead. It's a savage. And we're in. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Hey, are we in?
Yes, we are. It's going to be delayed to start on the stream, actually, so people can see it.
All right.
All right. So, hey, this is pretty exciting to be doing a 3-year anniversary stream. I know it's not a, what's the term I'm looking for? Not a epic anniversary, like a 5-year or a 10-year.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, a YouTube channel that lasts 3 years, not a bad thing.
3 is a powerful number. And in Savage Worlds, right? 3 actions. So I think it's appropriate.
We're hopefully this goes okay and we're not going to get hit with a multi-action penalty on how this works out. So yeah, I'm pretty psyched. And I'm announcing tonight I'm going to give myself a moniker. My Savage moniker.
Fancy.
I got the idea. The Savage Worlds GM podcast was around for a very long time, and I totally enjoyed it a lot. And they gave each other, they all had monikers. So there was like the Savage Rules Maven, there was the Savage Mommy there, and I can't remember who had what, but I'm going to give myself one because I've been doing it 3 years, playing Savage Worlds for a long time, and I think I'm okay giving myself one right now. And it's going to be the Savage Rocker. The Savage Rocker.
Ah. All right. I thought you were going to say Savage Daddy, but yeah, that makes more sense. So
yeah, so I don't know, I'm excited about it, but no one else probably is.
I've already proclaimed in an earlier video that I was Milquetoast Willie. I don't know if that counts.
Can you put Savage in front of it? The Savage Milquetoast.
Savage Milquetoast Willie?
Yeah.
I guess doesn't roll off the tongue that well. Yeah, I'll have to think about mine then for future.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So what do we want to talk about today? So Eric's going to watch the chat and maybe throw some information up, and we're looking forward to people asking, questions or wanting to talk about a certain topic. Not necessarily rules questions, but just questions in general about what's going on and what we're working on and that sort of thing, or the channel, or things about your favorites and stuff like that, and settings and whatever. And we'll talk more about that. So, but I did want to kind of start off a little bit about Eric and I have been playing together for quite some time now in different campaigns, and then we've been doing the channel for a bit, and so that's been a lot of fun. And so anything really cool that you got in the works? I know we've got our campaign, which is a sci-fi planet hopping thing that we just kicked off after a couple of other powerful ones. What kind of stuff you got going before I get into the meat of the conversation?
Just real quick on the chat, I think somebody from that podcast might be on. The Savage Cheerleader says what's up.
Awesome.
So good. There you go.
Thank you.
Another moniker. Now I really feel like I have to have one. Savage Sasquatch. I think that might work. Well, I'll mull it more later. But your game, which has been pretty interesting, which we've been getting more into the Fantasy Companion, which I'm excited to do some videos about. I think now I'm just working on to do a video with you. I think starting out with the Fantasy Companion, we're going to do a Fantasy Companion and Pathfinder, Savage Pathfinder, and do a comparison video between the two. So I'm going to go real deep in that. I have to comb through both books just so I get all the details right. So I think that'll be the thing that I'm working on now for Savage Worlds is really breaking down those differences, because I think there's a little confusion in the community or whether people think they can have either one. So I think it'll be a helpful video.
I think that will be fantastic. And in chat, hopefully folks are thinking it's going to be it's a great idea. And it's really going to be Eric driving that conversation to get through that. So I did have something that I just want to talk about. Self-indulgent. It's completely and utterly self-indulgent that I had a couple of people in my life say, why did I bother starting this channel? Why did I start this channel with Eric to do this? And the main reason was there just was a loss of Savage Worlds content.
Yeah.
There at the time, 3 years ago, there were a few actual plays, maybe, but as far as real rules discussions and deep dives on stuff, there really wasn't a lot because the podcasts started disappearing. Like there was the Wild Die went away, the Savage Worlds GM podcast, which I love those guys, that went away. So there was a lot of, and then on YouTube, if you searched, it was literally just D&D. I mean,
Yeah.
and nothing wrong
Yeah.
with D&D, but let's be honest, there's just so many D&D channels. It was like, well, how are people going to learn
I
this
don't know.
system and learn the rules and get excited about this game that I'm excited about? So I said, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel because it's free, it's easy. Since I record and do stuff, I had microphones, I had everything I needed to do it. And I, since you were playing with me, I was like, Eric, can you help me out with this? Because we really want to do some super deep dives. What's going on in the chat there?
We've hit veteran rank, which is fun. Can get a new attribute boost. Bounded Ackery says, yeah, they're from the podcast. The notoriously opinionated cast member. Hey, I feel like I've taken your mantle there because I am also notoriously opinionated several times. Yeah, and a lot of happy holidays. So
Yeah, awesome.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have gotten some comments. It's like, Eric, you got a lot of
chill out, Eric.
opinions, but that's fine.
Yeah.
We also have another podcast. We have a podcast we started called Mastering the RPG, which is a generic one
With our friend James.
with
Yeah, it was a
James,
generic one.
who's a
Yeah.
pro DEM, so that he gives some really interesting insights. And that show's about having opinions, like heavy opinions
Oh,
and
yeah.
being opinionated. So it's all about that. So that's not really
And I'm
rules
still waiting
discussions.
I'm still waiting for for people to send me something I could judge. I still want to judge some type of situation. So still waiting for that.
Adjudicate, as I
call.
say, adjudicate.
Yeah, adjudicate. Yeah.
So, so, so one of the things is, what do I like about our YouTube channel? And this goes back again to the D&D channels where people have 30 minutes of content where they're saying top five weapons
Yeah.
for your necromancer character, and then they spend 30 minutes describing their top 5 things. And I wanted to do something that was super deep dive. We got into it, good information, short form, which I do, and then the long form where Eric and I, some of the earliest videos, step by step through each edge. What makes it great? What doesn't make it great? How does it rank? Just some really in-depth quality information. I thought, again, personal opinion, I think it's great, right? So, so that was kind of the reason we did that. Eric, when I asked you to start, was there a reason that you thought it was a great idea, or did you just said, well, he's my game master and I'll just follow along?
No. I mean, because I game master and I was writing stuff. I think at the time I just finished writing my Fallout conversion. No, it's the same reason. Like, there's so much content out there, 5e content, and I felt like most of the people that I knew were playing games were just into 5e, and I would always bring up Savage Worlds to people. Maybe got a couple people into it, or I got a couple people to try like a one shot, and they were like, "Oh, this is really great," but they, so it was just, yeah, definitely about getting Savage Worlds out there to be more exposure, because like you said, there just really wasn't much up. And then getting like people want advice, and I just feel like at that point I had played so many games and written for it and GM'd it that it was like we think we have, obviously we don't know everything, but like we think we had a pretty good grasp on all the stuff and wanted to share that if it was helpful to somebody. So
Yeah,
there was definitely a niche for that. Yeah.
and I definitely used to troll the PEG forums where they did the rules discussions and clarifications. I don't know if that's as
It's
active.
died down a lot. It's really, and the official rules, like I've asked stuff and I still haven't gotten answers from like months ago. So, I mean, obviously COVID, and all the other stuff I think hit them, and it's just very slow to get any answers.
Sure, that's true. Everybody's been working through that for sure, for sure. So we started it. First thing off the bat was to go deep dive in each and every rule, it seemed like. I mean, we're talking hour-long episodes. It took us like 3 episodes to get through edges each one an hour long.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
took a lot. And the regrets, do I have regrets? No, I love those shows. The regrets I have was that the sound quality wasn't great in the beginning. That's the one thing I wish I could have done better. And it's funny because I record music, and so you think I would have done a better job, but I just was feeling my way around things like the software I had to use, Final Cut and how it works, and getting rid of the noise and the backgrounds, and I
Yeah.
squashed things too much, and it was a
And I
shame.
wasn't recording on my end at that point. I wasn't giving you like my own recordings of
Yeah.
video and sound. So yeah,
Yes. So now we both record, I combine, I use Final Cut, and add a lot of noise or compression and suppression, all the good stuff. And so I think the sound quality is 10 times better now than it was. And if anything, I guess that's my biggest regret from the beginning. What did you have any takeaways from the beginning of the that you said, hey,
yeah, I think maybe going back to the too opinionated. Um, I've definitely softened up a little bit, and not that like I still have my strong opinions, but I'm definitely a little bit more open minded, maybe, or at least the way I like might state something would be kind of more aware of other no, a lot of people aren't like me. So we got somebody saying they were a big fan of the deep dives on edges. Yeah, hopefully we're gonna do a similar, very similar thing with the fantasy book. After I do the comparison video, we're gonna go through and we're really gonna deep dive the fantasy book, which will be very fun because we've been having fun with that. So yeah, that was my probably biggest regrets more is, and then we tried to kind of do a ranking thing, which I don't think you really need necessarily. So yeah, that was probably it. More of that side of it, not the technical side.
yeah, for me it was primarily the technical side. I think the whole point was a deep dive in the beginning, and that was exciting. So
Yeah, it was good. It
um
was fun.
and then I don't know. One of the other things is it's kind of no nonsense in the sense of
Yeah,
from a from a you look at other YouTube channels, a lot of B-roll, a lot of sound effects, a lot of do this transition, crazy transition. I kind of keep it
yeah.
simple. It's really just about the
We're the
information.
working man's. We're the
Working
working
man.
man's Savage Worlds channel.
I don't
Yeah,
know, but that's the question.
the
Maybe in
blue
the
collar
chat, somebody could say, "No, no, you really should do some B-roll and get some,
more B-roll,
get some good
some
stuff in
graphics, some
there,
swipes. You
some
want some star
swipes."
wipes? If everybody wants a star swipe or wipe, whatever, then yeah. Uh, oh, nice. Yeah, the chase. That was a. I think Chase is somebody in the chat talking about they enjoyed the chase explanation. Yeah, that was a big one because I think that's the one module of Savage Worlds that people know the least about. I think, and always have a hard time running or just getting into it. So the quick chase one though, that's yeah,
That was recent. The quick chase
yeah. We
deck.
did the recent video. Yeah,
Got some comments, feedback that yes, it could be used for more than just foot chases. You just would have to change the titles and the verbiage, and just let the character, maybe the players have more narrative control there. But sure, why not? But Chase Deck is a great addition to the Savage Worlds family. I think I'm looking forward to using it myself, actually
yeah.
in some
In the
games. I mean,
campaign.
we've done some
Yeah,
proof of concepts and figuring out how it works, but we haven't really got a chance to use it in a game specifically. And now with the sci-fi game we're doing, maybe some foot chases running away from angry creatures on the planet surface or something. We'll see. So let me think. So let's talk about Savage World stuff, and start kind of digging into. So um, what kind of what kind of things do you think are what gets you excited, gets you going? Thinking about the channel, what kind of things is like, hey, this is the kind of stuff we should be talking about, or we're not talking about. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Fantasy
huh.
Companion that we
Yeah.
want to get into. And what do people on
I
the
mean
chat think?
that's
That's what I'm
that,
interested in. What do
oh
they
yeah,
think?
yeah. I mean, for me, it's just yeah. I really want to get into the fantasy book. I can't wait for the science fiction book. I'm actually quite, I'm quite. I would sad is the word that it's being delayed so much, and that some other ones are kind of coming out before it. I really wish the sci-fi one would come out sooner. But I've just been very impressed by their, the superhero one, which is what got me into Savage Worlds in the first place. Like they did a really good job on the new one. The fantasy one, just a spoiler for upcoming review if people haven't seen it. It's definitely much better than the last edition's fantasy book.
Well, that was kind of
So they
old.
are.
That's old though. So
Oh, and when it was really old, yeah, yeah. We got some yeses for the sci-fi. Um, yeah, some people thanking us for GM tips for you for GM tips. We haven't done a deep dive for creating monsters specifically for Savage Worlds, but we did do a deep dive on that. But it's more generic for our audio podcast. So we talk about a lot about it. I mean, not specifically with Savage Worlds mechanics, but we do talk a lot about it in general terms in our on our audio podcasts, right? But
yeah,
yeah, maybe we'll do a one for specifically for Savage Worlds because I love making creatures. I love creating monsters for Savage Worlds, definitely.
yeah. I think I did. Only thing I did was like a super short forum on how I think about creating monsters myself. And simple stuff, nothing deep dive like we would normally
Yeah,
do together. The normal steel and skin, the normal everyday things that we
the
use
normal
all the
tips.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I did
But
do a little
I
bit
do
about
think
that.
Savage Worlds, one of the biggest strengths of Savage Worlds for me, for GMing, is just how easy it is to create custom creatures. And really not just reskins, like really custom. Like in the one shot that I ran, um, I think we showed it on the channel for the Agents of Woe. I made a really
Oh,
crazy, basically this rat conglomerate blob tentacle monster. Um, yeah. Oh yeah, there is a creature generator. That's true. And there's a bunch of some of the settings also have um, some weird creatures and some like creature generators too, or like kind of light. Yeah, you can use those, but the system on its own has the flexibility to do it pretty easily, don't you think?
oh, I absolutely, and
Yeah,
it's just the only thing is the rules are kind of basic in all the different monstrous
yeah,
capabilities, and if you want to do something crazy, you really have to start thinking of balance and how it's going to work. And you don't have a creature that has a +5 or +6. No, that doesn't make sense. Something
no,
that's
not that.
+2, and you have to
Yeah,
kind of think about that. And that's where using and reskinning is important, because that the peg guys have already thought about balance, and if you can kind of find something that matches, it's pretty good. So yeah. um, Oh yeah, appreciate Matthias mentioning the GM stuff. Yeah, I like talking about the GM, the campaign worlds and stuff that we're doing there. That's thank you for that. So yeah, creatures, sure, sounds good. I like it. A great idea. We should do a deep dive on creatures, and you should
well,
check
yeah,
Mastering the RPG, where we talk
yeah,
generically about creatures. There's only 14 episodes, so it's not a big back catalog to go through. You can listen to all of it.
no, yeah.
um, so one of the cool things I think about, actually, I was going to say, Savage Worlds, the sci-fi companion, absolutely, we got to have
Oh
it,
yeah,
want it. But all those aces out there, there was some hard science fiction stuff like Seven Worlds that hasn't been updated. It'd be nice to see even an ace take that on and do something more science fiction. Not Interface Zero does the cyberpunk stuff, and there's a lot of stuff you can leverage there. Rifts as well that you could leverage. But it'd be cool to see someone come out and do a heavy, what's the term I'm looking for? Hard
sci-fi.
sci-fi.
Yeah,
Um, with nanomachines though, because we got to have nanomachines, and everything I do has to have nanomachines for some reason. I don't know why that is, but that's a thing. Um, so hey, what are yours? Speaking of settings, so what kind of settings does folks in the chat, and do you think have you read recently? I've been going through a lot of them recently.
why don't you say then? Because I haven't read too many ones that we haven't talked about. I haven't read too many different settings at this point.
Oh
Good
yeah,
ones.
so I mean, even recently, well, last year or the year before, I went through Crystal Hearts. Obviously, Lost Colony, just got done with a campaign on that. The After, I don't know if you got a chance to go through that one.
Oh yeah, I've looked at it a little bit. Yeah, that's
Wise
fun. Yeah.
Guys. I just did a video, just an overview video, because it wasn't really a review. Because normally you and I do real deep, long episodes on reviews, but Secret Files of Section D, and then Holler. Can't
Oh
we
yeah.
got to remember we went through Holler, and so
When we
that
talk about like setting of the year, I mean, I would say because the monster one that came out a couple years ago. So I think the my favorite setting of this year probably would be Holler, just because of how unique it is.
Yeah,
Um,
Holler brings something to the table that wasn't there before. Yeah, and I forgot about what is it, the Monster Hunters Club? That's
yeah, Monster Hunters Club.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was another one that we just loved. I love that
yeah,
setting
yeah,
book.
yeah.
That's just so fantastic. Talk about
I would like
flavor.
another Cyberpunk one, honestly, because what we loved Interface Zero 2. That's where we met, is playing Interface Zero 2. We both backed Interface Zero 3, but I think we it's been hasn't been the most smooth ride, I would say. So yeah, I would like a more and more like Cyberpunk, Red, Cyberpunk 2077, more like straight Cyberpunk. I think would be really cool. Playing Savage Worlds. Also because I've just been reading Cyberpunk Red, and I'm pretty much most of the time I'm like, this would be better as a Savage World setting. This Savage Worlds is just a better system than Cyberpunk, and it could do all these things. So, um, yeah, that's what I would hope for. Honestly, I'm almost feeling like doing the conversion myself, just because yeah, we've checked out we've checked out Pro Runners. We actually did a review on it. It's definitely really good. Our review of that was it's really good for doing Shadowrun, but I didn't think it would be as good of doing straight Cyberpunk. That was my feeling. Carl, you had the same,
Yeah,
right?
I think the takeaway was
Yeah,
if you want to run Shadowrun
Shadowrun. Yeah,
and Savage Worlds, because it already has all that lore, and you just deal with Sprawl Runners doesn't have lore, doesn't have its
yeah,
own atlas or anything like that, but it does have that flavor of Shadowrun. And if you want to play more traditional Cyberpunk right now, the choice you have is Interface Zero, but it's pretty hefty. And I think if I was going to do another Cyberpunk game, I would hopefully there's like
just
the fantasy
homeschool.
companion that has
Yeah,
cybernetics in it, but um I would do homebrew. I mean, just simplify it down to the necessity because I don't do things like mechs or power armor or stuff like that generally in
yeah.
my game. So I don't need special rules for mech to mech combat or anything like that. So
Yeah, Hell on Earth. Somebody was talking about Hell on Earth in the chat. I haven't actually. I never played that one, but we played Deadland. I played Deadlands, and then we played a Lost Colony game,
yeah, I read
which was cool.
I
Yeah,
I mean, I read them because the Deadlands universe, right? There's Deadlands,
yeah,
and then there's um, another one, Noir, and then there's Hell on Earth, and then there's Lost Colony. They all take place kind of in the same universe, right? At different, like Hell on Earth is after the gate falls for Lost Colony, if I remember appropriately. So, but yeah, there's a lot of really good settings. Crystal Hearts was just cool in its concept, and it's based on a
yeah,
cartoon or a web comic, so that was pretty cool. The After, good post-apocalyptic, heavy book. Again, heavyweight, lots of stuff in there in the
yeah.
book. So I liked Secret Files of Section D. I just looked at. Um, I don't know if it's balanced or not, but it was really had a lot of cool flavor if you wanted to be a secret agent man. Um, that was pretty cool, and it's a little bit different than Titan Effect because I think we played in a Titan Effect game setting
I
game
didn't.
too.
I didn't play with that with you, but yeah, I'm
Oh, I
aware of
was
it.
in that by
Yeah,
myself. So yeah,
yeah,
that was that has a totally different. It has a much more modern superhero-ish kind of people.
yeah,
But Section D is much more kind of secret agent. All that stuff, the super weapons and a Nazi, all that stuff is real. And so you're playing in a world like that. So that was pretty cool.
yeah. So just in chat, the Savage Cheerleader is saying I think they are making their own setting. I believe what they're saying that's going to be published soon. Science fantasy, yeah, very cool. The what we're actually playing in now with me and Carl's game, but I kind of helped him a little bit with the world stuff and the mechanics is science fantasy. We're basically it's set from an older one it's in space, but we're basically using the fantasy book as kind of like science is magic kind of thing, and it works pretty well, honestly. A lot of the stuff from the fantasy book, like the mystical powers, I think that's what they're called, the edges that give you like the paladin, the ranger, although they keep them very generic. Those work really well as kind of like small little inventions, like cybernetics or like a scanner, things like that. So I think the fantasy book can be really easily reflavored to use for a lot of science fantasy type things.
Oh yeah, I agree. And
Yeah,
the campaign we're in now, even though it's science fiction, it's based on a previous campaign where these Victorian age folks, which is what you were discovered ancient technology. And so what I didn't want to
Yeah.
do in this new campaign was now just that technology is just everywhere. It's still mysterious. And so
Yeah.
bringing in the fantasy companion instead of like a cyberpunk book or that made more sense even because there's
Yeah.
mystery to it and that's the fantasy or the how these powers work is mysterious and magical to the players and the player characters. So
Yeah, my character has a an armband that's basically like a GM's helper that's for super science fiction LARPing. It creates monsters. That's what I base everything on is like tweaking stats. So yeah, Savage Cheerleader that'd be really cool. I think I look forward to checking it out when it does come out.
yeah, get us a copy for sure. As you know, I do talk about this stuff on my channel. I
Big brain
love
children.
more content
Yeah,
to
give
you know
him content. Feed the beast. Feed
well and,
the savage rocker. Right. That's
the
the
Savage
yeah.
Rocker. That's right. That's right. I'm not working on a current RPG song right now, so I feel very bad about it. So um, so anything else interesting going on in this? Yeah, I love the idea of a sci-fi fantasy. And I do need to get a chance to read Dead End. I haven't downloaded that one yet.
I
I
haven't
think that,
looked at either. Yeah, there's not really that many. I mean, and even out there, like, I mean, there's, I guess you could call whatever the Starfinder, Numenera, right? I think that Numenera, like, I play a bunch of Numenera. It's just, again, like you play Numenera, and I'm like, I should just be playing Savage Worlds or like D&D or something. There's a lot of systems like I'll play, and then I'll be like, this is just better. I can just do this setting in Savage Worlds. So, um, yeah, there's a new Eberron. No, have you checked out the Eberron conversion?
no, I was never Eberron was never one of those things that pulled me in and
Oh, okay.
got my imagination going. Now, I know folks who were in Eberron Savage Worlds actual plays, and I interviewed the
Yeah.
GM once, and they loved it. So,
Yeah.
oh, so that's what we're talking about, Eberron. I the conversion that the folks used in that actual play was
It was Pathfinder, right? They used and then they converted it.
no I think the original what they used originally was Christian Serrano's, and
Oh,
then
okay.
later they
They
leveraged
took up the Savage Pathfinder.
the Savage
Okay.
Pathfinder for a second one. So,
Okay.
man, I'm so bad with names. I don't know if they're still going on. Ellie was one of the people there, and she's moved on to her own project, so I haven't really been following much that podcast lately, unfortunately. So, um, so here's a question for you. I don't know. You've wrote a few settings for the chat too.
Uh-huh.
Best plot point campaign in a setting. I know my answer.
Huh.
Put it out to the crowd.
Well, what's your I played I mean, I guess I played a bunch. I still one of my favorites is still Necessary Evil, and I just love the
Oh yeah,
Necessary
yeah.
Evil worlds. I just love it. I love it so much. I really hope they do another. I know they are doing another one, so I can't wait for that because I love playing a villain that's kind of forced to be somewhat good or whatever.
And not
I
even
mean,
a
there's just
redemption
really more
arc.
fun.
It's not even a
Yeah, it's
redemption
not even
arc. It's just
redemption.
they're forced to.
You're forced to. Yeah, and so you can be that villain, like not not completely evil villain, whatever. But it's just so much more fun to play. So that's probably just my favorite. But I don't know. What's your favorite?
My favorite is the one in 50 Fathoms.
Oh, okay.
That is just so well done. Because a lot of plot point campaigns are very linear on purpose, right? You kind of have to be.
Yeah.
The 50 Fathoms one, at least the one I read, there may be multiples, but the one I read, it's pretty much you can do anything, go anywhere,
Yeah.
and it all ties together at the end. And not to give it away, but it all comes together at the end, no matter which way you go and no matter how you attack the problem. I think it was just inspired writing, to be
Interesting.
honest. I think so.
Yeah, some people are saying any breakout. Yeah, definitely Evernight. And then somebody said 50 Fathoms is the benchmark. Yeah, and I think that's the strength also of the setting of like going back to our previous topic. I really want to see. I know there is a conversion for 50 Fathoms. I've looked at it. It's pretty lackluster. There's an official conversion from hey, find love on the best dating site. Oh, is that they're, they're spamming the chat? Is this
We're being spammed.
Savage World? Yeah,
Yeah.
we are being spammed about the best dating site. Hey, that could be a fun one shot. Kind of like a dating, like a rogue AI dating site. One shot would be kind of fun. That's a good con game right there. But yeah, 50 Fathoms. I would love to see a new. There's not really been a good for Suede at least seafaring, swashbuckling, with occulty stuff mixed in. The conversion that they have is just it's official, but it's just pretty lackluster. So um, I really really want to see a beefier one,
So well, there was
because I love 50 Fathoms.
uh there was also Buccaneer, Hell or High Water, something like that, which was an
Yeah,
Ace product, which I think was before Suede. It came out just before Suede, if I'm not mistaken, and that was pretty good. That wasn't too
yeah,
bad. I haven't used it though. I haven't done any pirate stuff other than some little bit of 50 Fathoms, which was again fantastic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm so thrown off by this dating. But it gave me a good
can you
idea.
hear
I
my
really
keys
want to run
clicking?
this one shot now.
My
What?
keys are clicking because I'm trying to check out the site. They've convinced me by spamming the chat that I should just check out
Okay.
their site.
It is the best dating site. So oh, Shane's on there. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I was assuming is that he's saying that they need to re-release the setting. That's what I'm hoping for. Please release it because we will play it. Yeah. So
That would be if that came out, um, that would be right on my top of my list of campaigns as we finish. Because I usually
yeah,
run, with you guys, my normal group. I usually run. What are they, about a year or so?
yeah, about a year. Yeah,
About a year, and then we close the story. It's only recently that we're now doing a campaign based on a previous campaign, which is kind of cool. But then we close the story and we go, what's a new setting? What's a new idea that we can explore? And then go from there. And so it'd be awesome to bring 50 Fathoms to the group because I think the group I play with would just totally dig it.
yes, and it's been a good, just like the superhero. I think the settings that I've gotten the most like non-Savage World people into Savage Worlds has been superheroes, and also it would be like a buccaneering one because people love that, and the 5e one is pretty lackluster. I mean, it's just not that good. Um, Pathfinder's okay, so I think a fantasy buccaneering one would get a lot of people into it.
Well, because
These people
it's
that I
just got
know.
that natural. You got your home base. You're got that natural
Yeah,
home base, and you're going from adventure to adventure. It's just
and
it's
it works really well with the system. It works really well with the pulpy, fast action-paced system. So,
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Especially when you're doing those tests and support. I'm going to swing from one ship to the other ship with my battle cry, and I'm going to use that to taunt, whatever, intimidate. It's perfect. It'd be perfect. So, um, yeah. So those are a lot of the settings I've been reading. Haven't run them all, but I like reading what people have and what ideas they have, and sometimes you find interesting edges or hindrances that are more applicable for other things. So yeah, I like reading settings. I'm assuming other people just devour settings even if they're not planning on running them. Um,
yeah, oh, for sure, yeah. And like we've talked about in a lot of other videos, like you can really take stuff like from the Holler, like that book. Even if you don't even plan on running it, it has so many good creatures in it, and
oh
like
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
That was the one with the really good like adventure creators and seeds and stuff, right? And there's a couple books like that which have really good adventure generators in them that you can just take for your own games. So I think settings are always valuable, even if you're not going to run them.
And that's a cool thing about Savage Worlds in general is when people talk about D&D, lots of times they talk about homebrewing because there's something wrong with D&D. And I'll put in quotes wrong, but there's something they don't like, and so they homebrew it. or they hack it or whatever they
Yeah.
do. Savage Worlds is already designed to be hackable. By definition,
Oh my
each
god.
setting can bring its own setting rules, can bring its own edges and hindrances. It can modify the skills. You don't have to keep the skill. You can replace it with something else. Like I was just reading the Secret Files Section D, so it's in my mind. They got rid of hacking and they included cryptography because that's much
Oh,
more
cool.
interesting in a spy game. So it's already designed, but then it also has the mechanics like dramatic tasks and quick encounters and stuff like that. That's already there that you can repurpose for other things without having to I don't know, invent something, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, like even even like a ship to ship battle, that could be a dramatic task, or that could be you could even try doing something as a mass battle if you've got a fleet action, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you can just use and not have to. I don't have to create my own if I don't want to. Even though some of the aces, they spend a lot of time with some very interesting concepts, and so that's pretty cool to read, to be honest, um, because it does bring some cool stuff to the table.
Yeah, it definitely is all about selling it, but that is the for my GM people, I'm always like, you have no idea how you can do anything in Savage Worlds, like literally anything. Always tell people that. I'm like, any setting you can bring to me, I could probably make an easy conversion for it. Um, Ron Van Pelt is talking about and Hell on Earth has a lot of cool things in there for encounter generators. And yeah, I mean, it's just fun collecting settings and using all those tools. But yeah, like uh, yeah, I lost my train of thought there, but oh yeah, that's what I tell all my GM people. I'm like, if Cowboy Bebop, yeah, that'd be easy to do. My idea that the game that I'm gonna run, that I'm working up to run after we get this other thing done, is like a superhero, 18th century with superpowers, like pirates with superpowers, little post-apocalypse. So you can pretty much do anything. I mean,
Well, and that
I
was
like I said, I'm reading Cyberpunk Red right now, getting ready for a small game, and the whole time I'm like, this would just be better using Savage Worlds rules. Like all this stuff, it's just too much, it's just too overcomplicated. Like you could just do this all with Savage Worlds rules. So
Well, and that was one of the cool things for a while. I don't remember where it was, but it was always, can you savage it? And somebody would just throw out a concept, and it might have been on the official Facebook page or somewhere, I don't know, but it's like, just throw out, just throw out an idea, and then someone would savage it, like Cowboy Bebop.
yeah, yeah.
Take it away for a couple minutes.
Oh god, I don't know what to talk about. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. What do you have next?
On my list, um, just some of the piece. You're already starting to get into it, but what makes Savage World special in folks' eyes? Or I was hoping there'd be some more questions from the chat if there are any. I'm more than happy to talk about them as far as the channel or how things are done or anything like that. But I think I think we're preaching to the choir. Obviously, the folks are in here,
Of
but I
course.
mean,
Yeah.
um, we did a not we're it feels like a cross promotion, but we in Mastering the RPG podcast, we actually did an episode where it was like, what can you take from Savage Worlds and apply it to other
Yeah.
systems? Things like dramatic tasks, things like that are even the chase cards, the new chase quick chase, that can be plugged in almost anywhere, right? As far as just as long as you understand the mathematics behind the pluses and minuses, you can just deal anybody into that. It's practically like a card game that you can use in any
Yeah.
system. So um, the modules work pretty well. You can pull a lot out of them. Which the other way around, I've read a lot of systems where it's like nearly impossible to pull anything from them
Yeah.
into another game. Not because it's bad, but just because um, it's so intertwined with the way it thinks. Um, um, like the system Numera's based on, everything's got to be
Well,
based.
Numenera started, but then it was the Cortex was it Cortex or By the way,
No,
I can't remember the.
it's not Cortex. I keep
It's
getting
similar.
that wrong
It's
myself.
yeah, whatever. It's the Numenera
Cipher
engine.
system. Cipher system.
Cipher.
But
Yeah.
but you have to have a cipher, right? The whole one of the whole things is things are ciphers in the cipher system, and it doesn't. It I've read it, and it just didn't feel right because it felt like somebody had a game that they decided they wanted to make a basic system, and no disrespect for the cipher system, it's very well done, right? It's an impressive game, but it's just not like, well, I can just pull all these other settings in and use it. I feel like I'm constrained and I'm kind of forced to think a certain way. Um, but that's just my opinion. I like the way
We do
Savage
have a
Worlds combines crunch with narrative.
Yeah, we do have a question, suggestions for narrating travel over long distances instead of doing multiple sessions. So I think this is a question about just how when we would narrate travel just long distance, right? Yeah,
Well, I think
without doing it, without doing a lot of rolls. I'm assuming.
I think that'd be a great episode. One of the things with interludes, right? They bring a little bit of that concept to the table, right? I mean,
A little bit with the downtime. For me, I love using dramatic tasks for so many things. I use dramatic tasks sometimes almost like a chase. Like if people are running away, like if a plane is crashing, right? I'd use a dramatic task, which is pretty obvious. But you could even just do a dramatic task, honestly, with traveling, like and have the different stages, kind of different, like the different environments or different kind of things they would come against.
well, if you're
Um,
doing man versus nature,
yeah,
you could definitely use a dramatic task to represent things like, are you getting injured on your travel? Are you able to get enough food? Are you um, one of the things that there's a game called Forbidden Lands is good at. You can probably look at that, but you could leverage dramatic tasks to do something very similar for sure.
yeah. And in the chat, I think Bounded Accuracy says quick encounters. Yeah, those are always obviously good to do. Yeah, you should never. For me, I hate running the whole like travel full combats just all the time. It just slows stuff down. So if you want to do a combat, I think quick encounters is definitely a good way. And then Shane says interludes. For me, it would be like personally, what I would do it is probably a dramatic task with interludes to have kind of the feeling of both of there's like the struggle and overcoming things, then also the downtime of being around the fire and
Well,
sharing stories.
in a travel, so again, Savage Worlds is not an attrition system, right? So it's not about whittling down the resources of players. So you can
No.
do things like a
Yeah.
dramatic task or even just a like a quick encounter, and they come out of the other end with a wound or they come out unscathed, whatever, versus the reason there's so much travel, random encounters and things like a D&D, at least when I played D&D, right? And I will fully admit I haven't played 5e very much, haven't game mastered it at all. But sometimes the reason those things are around is to eat up hit points so that when they get to the next encounter,
Get to
their
the things that are a
resources
little
have been
weak.
whittled away and they're not at full strength
Yeah.
anymore, and stuff like that. Savage Worlds, you don't need to do that, right? It's not
The only thing I
useful.
would say, yeah, I mean, well, 5e, yeah, they don't have a good travel system, and with Magic it breaks. For me, why I would say dramatic tasks for travel is because you do it on a sliding scale of success, and that kind of shows how soon you got there. So if you have to be there, if you have to be somewhere within 2 weeks, right? Then the dramatic task kind of sets that up with um, you got there on time or you were a couple weeks late. Now things have gone to shit because you were because you encountered this swamp pit that you guys had to get over in one round. Another round was maybe a monster. So that's when I think of travel, it's always like having time. I would only use that in the case of like trying to get there in a certain amount of time. That's the only. It's not attrition. It's just like it took us this much time to get there. So that was the struggle for. Do you want to go quick, or do you want to go slow and steady? So
That makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense.
and
And
you can use all of them, like I said, quick encounters, um, uh, interludes. I mean, all of the three of these things could be combined into kind of a narrative blanket. So don't be afraid to just kind of throw things at the players. So yeah.
a social, you do social conflict. See if somebody will let you ride on their back, and then you don't have to
Yeah, maybe there's a cart. Maybe like there's a wagon train that comes, and there's that you're trying to convince them, hey, we need to make up times to do a social conflict. You can really do a lot, but I definitely think stay away from random combats.
Oh
Just
yeah, yeah.
not fun.
So anything else out there?
Let's see. Everybody loves Savage Worlds. Pretty much the general consensus. Let's see.
And I think this is a non-biased, this is an
Yeah,
accurate
who's
poll,
gonna come in this?
completely accurate poll. That Savage
In
Worlds
our
is the
bubble,
best.
everybody loves Savage Worlds. Everybody plays Savage Worlds.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. I mean, I wouldn't invest so much time making YouTube videos, circling it back around. See what I did there? I wouldn't spend so much time doing YouTube videos if I didn't think it was worthwhile putting content out into the, I'll use the term community, but I don't know if I'm really part of the community, but putting stuff out that people can use and take advantage of. And I've always gotten a lot of comments that people are learning um, things. We don't get a ton of comments on the videos, but the comments we get is usually people are learning stuff. It was great that helped them get into the game, helped them convince their players to play, you know, whatever. And some of the top watch videos that we have on the channel are about kind of learning how to play, or bringing yourself in from D&D, or deep diving on the rules so somebody can really, hey, here's a combat example. I can dig into it and really understand how that's going to work. And I think the combat example we had from, I don't know, episode 20 or something like that
Yeah.
is a top performer, because I think it just, again, got to the meat, showed it how it worked, let you see the examples, tried a bunch of stuff, and then people can walk out and go, wow, I can see how I could do a test or a support or something like that. I see what that means when they say that's something that makes it narratively interesting.
Yeah, Savage Cheerleader says you are part of the community. I think you gave yourself a moniker, so I think you've accepted that you are part of the community.
I suppose that's true.
So,
That's
yeah.
true. The Savage Rocker agrees.
Yeah, Shane's saying that you can, give them if they're losing supplies. There's definitely
Oh,
some
yeah.
attrition to traveling for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There's not, you can't do a lot, right? Because you have, 2 points here and 3 points wounds, and supplies would be a big one for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And if there's no magic, healing is, we're talking about natural healing rolls. So if somebody couldn't heal you successfully.
Well, and speaking of magic,
Ooh, my favorite.
yeah. Talk about powers. One of the cool things about, I think,
yeah.
powers is that you can customize them.
Oh, yeah.
You can add, you can skin them the way you want, and you don't have to have a tome, like half the book that talks about you know one spell, that all these spells that do 1d4 damage, but they're all a little bit different, and so we have a listing for each one of them, and you have to take
Yeah.
each one of them in your Fancy and Magic slots. And so you love magic in the system. I think
Oh, yeah.
powers is a really well way of doing it. You could still do slots if you wanted to, I guess, but it's PowerPoints is a good way of handling. So you love magic and the power system. You play power characters all the time. So what are your?
I even wrote I wrote a guide about it. You guys can check out, but it's off of the core book. Sorry, what was your question?
Well, that was a question. Yeah,
just what?
Some of your thoughts, and
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Yeah, I love the power system. I love the superhero book. That's what got me into Savage Worlds originally. I mean, the generic stuff, like, I think some of the things are difficult for new players to get in. Certainly about flavoring, and then how that can be with new GMs too, about like, if you have lightning and water, whatever, those kind of things, reminding people to do that. But I think it's because a lot of people are so trained to have everything spelled out for them. They don't see the kind of like how open it is and how much flavoring is important. I mean, I flavor in it. I play a lot of other systems too, and I flavor in those games. But in this game, it's like, it's actively encouraged, and nothing more than with powers. the limitations, I think those are, whenever I pretty much help out in our game, anybody who goes to powers, they don't really know. I usually help them out. I'm always like limitations, because that's where you can really super customize your powers and get the benefit, kind of to fit how you think it is. So yeah, it has the most flexibility. That's why I was very happy with the fantasy book. For me, from now on, I'll pretty much just use the fantasy book now for powers, because I think it's an upgraded version of the core book. Some of them don't really work if you're like in, science fiction or whatever, or psychics or whatever. Some of the powers, but even the powers that are already there, they just did a better job. And I love and this was the case with Savage Pathfinder, and they had it in Rifts, the like mega power modifiers or whatever you want to call it. I think those are very needed for a lot of games. So for me, the Savage Worlds fantasy one has become kind of the de facto one now,
That's your go-to.
because it brings so much more. Yeah, it brings so much more to the table for powers and flexibility and everything. But yeah, like I said, I wrote a guide about it. And I like in the fantasy book that they show a lot of the different spell, like how you could make different spell casters, and have like little quirks. That's something that I've done in writing my own stuff. Bounded Accuracy is running Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Interesting, nice, for using Pathfinder. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Let us know how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't do a lot of fantasy, but that's pretty cool to hear that's going on. So
Which is Dragonlance, right?
my favorite one shot? No. I just wrote.
No, I think that Shadow of the Dragon Queen is Dragonlance.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the next question. What's your favorite one shot?
No, he's actively running it. That in using Savage Pathfinder.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the cool thing. So in the comparison video, sorry. What has been your favorite one shot to run for folks? Okay, so. Oh, you're recording the episodes. Very cool. Yeah, put up your link and we'll shout it out. People can see.
And you can maybe we can you can guest star on the show. I've done that before. We've talked to people about what they're doing and what they think. Just have to have a topic.
So your favorite one shot. So that's Carl's actually written a lot of different one shots because he does a lot of different convention games. So let's hit that for you, Carl. What's your favorite one shot?
And to go back, it wasn't my I just wrote a Dragonlance one shot. I actually took an old D&D adventure and turned it, and did it. That used to be my favorite, but it's not right now. Right now, my favorite one shot that I run is what I call the Helix Nebula situation, which I actually did put up on Swag. What I like about it is you play robots that get woke up. You're on a ship that's like floating in space and all the people are gone, and you're playing robots. So you've got all those same, you have to think about problems as opposed to just kill stuff, because you have those hindrances. And you're trying to understand what happened with the ship. Why are people gone? What's going on? And then ultimately restart it and kind of save it. That's my favorite one. I liked it so much. That's why I put it up on Swag. My second favorite is one where you play Marines in a alien-esque kind of world, or universe. But it kind of flips your expectations. So I won't talk about it, but when the players get playing the game or the one shot, it flips your expectations of what you're coming in as a colonial Marine. So those two I love. And they've gotten pretty good reception. So what about, so you've done a few. I mean, Agent of Woe has got to be up there, right? Agents of Woe.
Yeah, I mean, Agent of Woe was really fun. The first episode that we did was a little shaky because I was really not feeling good that day. I had some medical stuff going on, and the people were very new. But the second episode was really cool. I had a lot of fun in that second episode. I thought that one went much better. I think my favorite one shot I've run was actually a Fallout inspired one that I did separately from the campaign that you were in that part of. Using my system that I'm using my conversion that I wrote, although that I had to update some stuff because I kind of had changed my mind on some stuff. So that was a lot of fun because of people who loved Fallout, and I loved Fallout World. So that one was a lot of fun. That got people to like, oh, this is a cool system, and oh, I like dramatic tasks. Yeah, we have another question. In another game, my players are going to transition from regular civilians to superheroes. What's the best way to transition? Rankings, maybe something else. I guess I'm not sure what you mean. Like, what's the best way mechanically? Like, just to give them the powers all of a sudden? I mean, you can do the what's it called? The Rising Star rules. They have that in the new one too. I think they kept that same name. Um,
Well,
where you give them like a small amount. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say in our the Gods Awaken campaign,
Yeah, the Gods Awaken one. Yeah.
um, that one's probably not a great example, but we started with basically there was two characters. There was
Yeah.
the normal person character, and then over time, as people discovered powers, that that superpower would be brought in, and they could use it,
Yes.
and then gradually they became, after all their powers were layered on, with by the time you got to seasoned, I think it was, or no, it wasn't even seasoned. It was just a couple of
Mechanically.
advances,
Okay.
and then you guys
Yeah.
were where you needed to be. Um,
Yeah,
that
I
was
would say mechanically, I would wait for if it's like a new rank or something, and then going with the Rising Stars, um, uh, the Wild Cards. Yeah, that's a cool book series. Um, uh, I would definitely start. You could start like with the Rising Stars. That every rank you get more and more power points. So you kind of start with less, and then that will enable them to, because there is rules in the new superhero book about certain skills being able to use for certain powers, although there is the focus skill, which is kind of the main one that's used. So either giving them, starting with a D4 in focus, and then if you're at the new rank, they can basically, if they want to, invest like one or both, allow them to kind of rank up using both points if they want to, something like that, that they could get their focus up. Because if they were starting characters, they might be able to do it. That would be one option. The other option is you could just let them redo the whole characters, I guess. That might be a little too much, but if you want to make it a more like smooth transition, I would say use the Rising Star rules and then wait till it's
yeah.
a advance.
Thanks, Shane, for joining.
Yeah,
That's amazing that you.
yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, that you jumped
Thank you
in.
so
Yeah, and I'm
much.
very excited. We want to see 50 Fathoms sooner than later. So yeah, a virtual whip, because we will play that. I might even do one shot of that. So yeah, very cool. So that's what I would do. Yes, we basically did do that game where we had started people out. Well, the thing is, when we started them out, that was like they knew that they were getting these superpowers basically. So you kind of had set yourself up. We were starting as cyberpunk characters that then became gods, quote unquote, or like lesser gods.
Right, right,
So we already had that idea of transitioning to that. Now the problem here was we didn't have the new book, so I basically had to go through and update the old book, and there was actually a lot of similarities with the new one where I was like, you can have certain skills. There was no like attributes being used, active attributes. So we had a lot of the same things from the new superhero book, and it worked out pretty well. Yeah, he did. He did say 50 Fathoms 2024. That's locked in now. There will be riots in the street if that doesn't come out.
well,
So
that's far
that
enough
and the
advanced.
5.5 D&D, right?
Well, that's
Yeah.
enough advance warning that I can save my pennies for the box set, because I generally get the books,
Yeah, I
but
will
I
kickstart
don't
that.
I don't kickstart the $150 box set. That's a little bit pricey when I buy as many books as I buy. So, um, very cool, very cool. Well, we're coming up on the hour. I don't know, is anything else that folks wanted to chat about, or you know, talk to amongst ourselves, anything? More than happy to stay on, but we weren't planning on going much more than an hour because I figured people would get sick of us by then, to be honest. So, all right. Well, I don't see anything more popping up in the chat. So, Eric, it's been a fun 3 years. I appreciate everybody
Yeah.
who supports, watches, comments, gives the thumbs up. Just amazing people who watch the videos, who participate in all the different. I mean, I get so many ideas and so much cool information by being on the official Savage Worlds
Yeah.
Facebook group, and hearing what other people are doing, and then inspiration from settings and what those authors are doing. It's just amazing stuff. I really enjoy, and I love that the book's relatively thin, so it's it's cool. So appreciate everybody's support. I'm going to keep doing this. Eric's going to join me. We're going to keep doing that. Fantasy Companion. I think we've put a stake in the ground that we're going to do some stuff on that
I think the
sooner
first
than
one,
later.
if people have an opinion, but I think we're planning on the first one being the Fantasy Companion versus the Pathfinder book. If people are interested in that, I don't know if there's an interest. I thought there would be, so that's why I've been getting into it. But just really having the comparison of, if you could have each one, or maybe combine them, or stuff like that. Basically, what's the big differences between them?
Yeah, so
Um,
we're still
'Cause I
working
think,
out,
yeah,
this we're in pre-production, if things have to go through, like, is there 2 shows there, 3 shows, 1 show? What's it looks like, because it takes a little time to think through this stuff and put we don't do scripts. I don't do scripts. I do bullet items, but
well,
it still
yeah,
takes time to do
we
that.
do outlines, and
Yeah, yeah, takes time to do that.
when we're doing the deep dive, we do. I mean, I do have to, like, we do have to take notes on everything and write
Yeah,
them down
yeah.
to really get all the details. So, yeah. Oh, Hampshire just has a lot of people asking that question on Reddit. Okay, I'll take your word for it. That will be the next thing. I will start to get into that. Yeah,
Oh, a lot of questions on Fantasy Companion.
versus the Savage Pathfinder. Yeah, yeah, we use both for Dragonlance. That's, again, a little update. That's what I would probably do for me, is borrow, mainly use the fantasy book, and then borrow stuff from Savage Pathfinder, mainly the class system.
Well, Savage Pathfinder is a little higher power curve, right? With the class edges being
A little bit. It's just, I mean, here's another preview, I guess, is the races start are 4-point races, and you get a free class edge. There's some stronger. There's beyond that, there is a little bit of edges in the Pathfinder one that's a little bit stronger, but generally those are the kind of two main things I would say, as far as power level goes, quote unquote. But there's, honestly, with with Savage, with the fantasy book, if if you're just using everything from there, you can combine things pretty crazy too. I mean, the mystic powers combining with other arcane backgrounds, some other stuff, can be very powerful. So,
and that's
um,
another benefit, right? Settings can kind of merge, and you can
yeah.
take stuff from different things and leverage it. So um,
Uh, yeah, they're okay. They're very similar to the HQ one in the superpowers book. Um, so, uh, yeah, the traditional powers, that's exactly bounded accuracy. That's what they're missing. Those are missing from the normal ones. So, um, yeah, it does prevent a little bit of it's definitely more narrative. It's very similar to the superpower headquarters builder, which we liked and disliked. I think the original, the Swex one of the SPC2 one, I like a little bit more. Just generally, I like a little bit more of that granular one, but they both are strong. Um, for the fantasy one, I might have liked to see, like, one where you can have more points of control, but that's just me. But it's still a good system for sure. Well, again, we're gonna deep dive all this stuff. So, yeah,
great questions, great questions. So
yeah, those are good questions.
I mean, 2023 is a long year, so there's a lot of weeks in that. So
Yep. Okay. Well.
all right, well, cool. All right, well, thanks again for everyone who's tuned in, and whoever and everyone who keeps on the channel and watches us do the videos. It's great. Check out Mastering the RPG podcast. That's another thing we're doing. And somebody said that I am making content, so therefore we are part of the community. So I feel great that I'm part of the broader community that's hopefully making Savage Worlds more accessible to folks, giving content that they can take advantage of, so that they can get their game groups to join and take advantage of what I consider one of the better systems out there. I haven't played them all, but I think it's one of the better ones. So hopefully the content gets more people involved and more people excited about the game. So thanks everyone who's
Yeah.
participated, who's watched. I appreciate it, and we will continue putting videos out, and maybe do a live stream here and there because this went so well, and maybe not wait till the 5-year anniversary. Maybe we'll do one sooner. So
Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. Safe gaming.
all right, bye now.
All right. Bye.